All right, let's put our historian hat back on.
Okay.
Will the American Empire collapse one day? And if it does, when it does, what will be the reason?
Statistically, likely. Statistically,
Yeah.
yes. It's the famous Fight Club quote. It's like on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everything drops to zero.
I like for all the books you've quoted,
Yeah.
you went to Fight Club. I
Oh,
guess the movie, right?
the book is good though. People should read that too. In terms of why, again, statistically, the answer is quite simple. It usually comes back to a series of unpopular wars, which are pursued because of the elite's interests. Then it usually leads to a miscalculation and not a catastrophic defeat. Normally, it comes gradually, and most of the times when these things end, the crazy part is most people who are living through end of empire have no idea that they're living through the end of the empire. And I actually think about that a lot from, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. Actually, your episode on Rome was fantastic. People should go listen to that. So there you go. Another really good one, I like to think a lot about the British Empire and if what eventually led to that collapse. And nobody in 1919 said the British Empire has just collapsed. Basically, nobody thought that. They were like, yeah, the First World War is horrible, but actually we came out of this okay. We still have India, we still have all these African colonies and all that. But, long periods of servitude, of debt to the United States, of degradation, of social upheaval, of Bolshevism, of American industrial might. And next thing you know, you find yourself at Potsdam and Churchill's like, holy shit, I have barely any power in this room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So revolutions happen slowly and then all at once. And so could you really put a real like pin in the end of the British Empire? It took almost 40 years for it to end. So America's empire will eventually end either from rising geopolitical competition, likely China, could be India, nobody knows. It will likely be because of being overstretched, of an elite capture is usually the reason why, and a misreading of what made your original society work, in the first place. And that is one where I honestly like all three of those things will happen all at once, and it will happen over an extremely long period of time. And it's very difficult to predict. I would not bet against America right now. I think we have a lot of fundamental strengths. We're such a unique and dynamic country. It really is fucking crazy. Every time I travel the world, as much as I love all these different places, I go, man, I love the United States so much. You will love it more when you leave. I really believe that. So
Yeah, and it's nice to remember how quickly the public opinion shifts. Like, we're very dynamic and adaptable, which and annoys me. I understand that's part of the political discourse, saying like, if Trump wins, it's the end of America. If Kamala wins, it's the end of America.
So stupid. Yeah.
But
So dumb.
I understand that the radical nature of that discourse is necessary to, like we mentioned,
to drive out votes.
To drive up votes.
I like to think about Americans in 1866. I cannot imagine going through a war where some X percent, I think it was like 2 or 3% or whatever, the entire population was just killed. Our president, who was this visionary genius who we were blessed to have, is assassinated at Forks Theater immediately after the surrender of Lee. Andrew Johnson, who's a bumbling like fucktard, is the one who is in charge. And, we're having all these insane crises over like internal management while we're also trying to decide like this new order in the South and whether to bring these people, how to bring these people back into the Union. I mean, I would have despaired like in that year. I was like, it's over. This is it. The war, I'm like, was it worth anything? If Andrew Johnson is going to be doing this, or even in the South, I mean, I can't even imagine for what they were going through too. They have to go home and their entire cities are burned to the ground and they're trying to readjust and, their entire economy and way of life is overthrown in 5 years. I mean, that's an insane time to be alive. And what do we know? It worked out, by 1890s or so, there were people shaking hands, Union, and there's a cool video on YouTube actually of FDR who is addressing some of the last Gettysburg veterans. I think it was like the 75th anniversary or whatever, and you can literally see these old men who are shaking hands across the stone wall. It gives me hope. Yeah.
Let's linger on that hope. What is the source of optimism you have for the 21st century, for the century beyond that, for human civilization in general? Because, it's easy to learn cynical lessons from history, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shit eventually goes wrong, but sometimes it doesn't. So what gives you hope?
I think that the fundamentals of what makes humanity great and has for a long time are best expressed in the American character. And that despite all of our problems, that as a country with our ethos, a lot of the stuff we talked about today, individualism, the frontier mindset, the blessings of geography, the blessings of our economy, of the way that we're able to just incorporate different cultures and the best of each and put them all together, give us the best opportunity to succeed and to accomplish awesome things. We're the country that put a man on the moon, which is the epitome of the human spirit. I hope to see more of that. And, I think last time I was here, I shouted out, and I love Antarctic exploration. I've read basically every book that there is on the exploration of Antarctica. And one of the reasons I love to do so is because there is no reason to care about Antarctica. None. There's nothing down there. Zero. Going to the South Pole is a truly useless exercise. And yet, we went. We went twice, actually. 2 people went there in the span of 5 weeks, and they competed to do so.
Yeah.
And the spirit that propelled Amundsen and Scott's expedition and people like Shackleton, who's like, if you were to ask me my hero of all heroes, it's Ernest Shackleton, is because his spirit, I think, lives on in the United States. It unfortunately died in Great Britain. And interestingly enough, the Brits even understand that. They're like, it's very interesting how popular Shackleton is in America. And even though he was Irish and he was a British subject, to me, he's a spiritual American. And I think that his spirit lives on within us and has always been here to a certain extent. And everywhere else, I think it's dying. But here, I love it here. There's so many cool things about America. People move around all the time. They buy new houses. They start families. There's no other place you can just reset your whole life. In the same country, it's wild. You can reinvent yourself. You can go broke. You can get rich. You can go back and forth multiple times. And there's nowhere else where you have enough freedom and opportunity to pursue that. And definitely have a lot of problems, but I've traveled enough of the world now to know that it's a special place. And that gives me a lot of hope.
I wish I could do a Bostonian accent of we do these things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard.
Because they are hard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so true. The Scott Irish got us. Well, listen, I'm a huge fan of yours, Saagar. I hope to see you in the White House interviewing the president.
There you go. That's right. That's the only situation you're going to see me in the White House.
Yeah. Front row and just talking free. I would love to live in a country and in a world where it's you who gets to talk to the press secretary, to the president, because I think you're one of the good ones as far as journalists go, as far as human beings. So I hope to see you in there, and I hope you get to ask a question that
ends up in a book.
That ends up in a good history book.
Absolutely. Well, likewise, I'm a huge fan of yours. For anybody out there who's interested, I compiled a list and I will go and retroactively edit it. Just go to SaagarandJeti.io. I created a newsletter with a website that has all the links to all the books I'm going to talk about here.
Beautiful. The hundreds of books that were mentioned here. All right, brother. Thank you so much for talking today.
Thank you.